So there you were, in Principal Nezu's office. It was kind of crowded in the small room. In addition to the mouse across the desk and Aizawa and Tsukauchi sitting next to you, a tall businessman glowered down at you. He kind of looked like a lawyer. Principal Nezu noticed your discomfort and spoke up cheerfully. Eiko, this is Sir Nidai, a pro hero with a special skill, one that may clear your name. You nodded warily. Nice to meet you. Are you a lawyer? He scowled, which was kind of weird because he'd already been scowling, so it was like scowl squared. Sir Nidai runs an agency for hero work, not law, Nezu interjected. You looked back at the scowling man. Sounds busy. Thanks for taking my case. Aizawa pinched the bridge of his nose. Eiko, he is not a lawyer. But he has a briefcase. Aizawa sighed tiredly. You looked back at Mr. Scowls, or Nidai, you supposed he was called, and tried again. So, sir, what skill are you going to use to help clear my name? He looked entirely unamused by how the conversation was going. My quirk allows me to see into a person's future. I could verify that you're on a path to becoming a responsible hero, assuming that's true. You frowned at him, not liking his tone, and started to feel fired up. Really? What are we waiting for? Go ahead and look, because I know that I'm going to become a hero. He glared back. There are risks, child. You may learn things you don't wish to learn. And the future that I see cannot ever be changed. The chilling finality in his voice annoyed you. Just do it. I'm not scared. You looked around at Aizawa, Nezu, and Tsukauchi, who were watching the interaction without interfering. This could help UA, right? This could show that I'm not dangerous. The three of them nodded reluctantly. Yes, Nezu put in. It would be a solid start to clearing your name, Eiko. I agree. Aizawa sighed tiredly. Sir Nidai's predictions are known to be infallible. If he vouches for you, it could change people's minds. You turned back to Sir Nidai, determined. Use your quirk. Look at my future. Sir Nidai's point of view. He glared at the girl in front of him. He regretted agreeing to this. Your stubbornness reminded him of Toshinori. Would you have a similarly gruesome future? Well, one thing was for sure. You had full confidence in your future as a hero. If you insist, he finally snapped, reaching out and touching your arm to use foresight on you. He immediately began sifting through a flood of images. You walking through a crowd of students. You later hugging a teenager with purple hair. You arguing with your dad. You helping a snail across the sidewalk. He sped up. You stubbing your toe, you laughing with friends as you helped them choose shirts from their closet. 100 ordinary moments flew by before his eyes. He had to find something conclusive. Something to prove you'd become a hero. Suddenly, he saw something out of place and rebound. Yes, it was. It was All for One. The location was hard to identify, since it was outdoors and dusk. You stood in front of the patiently waiting villain. Sir Nidai watched as your features set in resolve. He watched as you followed All for One into a dark, misty portal and vanished. Sir Nidai kept searching, but the further he looked into your future, the worse it got. He saw All for One mentoring you. He saw you getting stronger. He saw you standing next to All for One at the front of an army of villains. He snapped back to the present moment, having reached the limit of his quirk. The room held its breath. I'm sorry, he said slowly. I cannot vouch for the future of this child. Chaos ensued. You were on your feet, disbelief written across your features, demanding to know what he'd seen. Aizawa was trying to calm you down, Nezu was telling you to sit down, and Tsukauchi was already pestering him with questions. Eiko, Nezu finally raised his voice to be heard. I think it's best if you leave for the next part of this meeting. He gave you a sympathetic smile. No need to worry, we just have a lot to discuss. And it's all related to me, right? You demanded. So I should stay. I want to hear exactly what Nidai says he saw. You should leave, Eiko. You turned to Dad, betrayal in your eyes. You too? Don't you think there must be something wrong with Nidai's vision? I think, Aizawa growled. That you should leave when you are asked to. You flinched. Okay, fine. You spun around and left, making a point of closing the door behind you. Aizawa's point of view. He'd sounded harsh, but you needed to learn. You couldn't just go around insisting on whatever made sense to you. You needed to respect people and work with them. The flutters of anxiety in his stomach weren't making him any less snappy either. He was afraid to hear what Nida would say. What if Nida had seen something happen to you? Could he find a way to change the future? It was supposed to be impossible. Sir Nida, Nezu lost no time in asking, "What did you find?" Sir Nida stared dead into Aizawa's eyes. Eiko will join the villains. Stunned silence blanketed the room. Aizawa had been braced for anything except that. He knew you. How was that possible? What did you see exactly? Aizawa asked. She will be mentored by All for One. She will help him oppose all heroes. It's inevitable. Aizawa gritted his teeth. I don't doubt your vision, but there must be more to this than meets the eye. Go over everything you saw in detail. You can't stop the future from happening, Eraserhead. I may not be able to stop it, but I'd like to understand it. Very well. Nida repeated every last painful detail he'd seen. Your point of view. You didn't really pay attention to your surroundings as you wandered down the hallways across the campus grounds. It shook you, Aizawa's dismissal of you. Did he really believe Nida's vision? The mutter of many voices pulled you out of your thoughts as you neared the gate. You felt a growing apprehension as you neared a large crowd of students by the entrance of UA, all of them facing inwards towards something you couldn't see. You quickened your step, but you didn't have to push through because people recognized you and backed away, clearing a path. You could hear a whiny, snobby sort of voice coming from the center of the crowd, and when you finally broke through, you saw that it belonged to a guy with dark hair and eyes, and fingers glimmering with rings. The guy stood facing someone. Shinso. Shinso's back was mostly to you, but you'd know his tall stature and messy lavender hair from a mile away. You felt a wave of surprise wash over you. What was Shinso doing, surrounded by a crowd facing off with Akira, the school gossip and information broker? Akira was known for his way of looking down on everyone, but now, his haughty attitude was gone. Tears flowed down his cheeks as he addressed the crowd in a wavering voice. I started the rumors about Iko Aizawa trying to destroy the school's reputation. I am an idiot who enjoys stirring up drama for my own amusement, and I made all of you look like idiots for believing me. I am the true shame to this school. He got down on his knees, bowing to Shinso and to everyone, his apologies almost incoherent through his muffled, terrified sobs. It was uncomfortable, seeing someone so stripped of their dignity. Shinso turned away from Akira, and you froze as you saw his face. Anger flickered in his amethyst eyes. A small cut stood out sharply on his otherwise perfect features. He seemed to tower above the crowd, both in height and attitude, too cold and perfect to be human. And then he stopped short at the sight of you, eyes wide. The Hitoshi you knew again. You could feel the stares of the crowd. Your reaction would affect the way people treated you and Shinso after this. If you showed surprise or dismay, then people would only blame Shinso. They might even start to see you as more of an innocent schoolgirl. The cost was simple: Shinso's high school reputation, his chance at a fresh start. You looked into his eyes and projected your response clearly. Thanks, Hitoshi. I appreciate it. You offered a deliberately bright smile, turned, and walked away. You didn't look back, but you could hear the rise of chatter as students dispersed. You headed down the sidewalk away from UA. Shinso's hand caught your arm a minute later, stopping you. Why did you say that? Now everyone thinks you asked me to do that to Akira. You turned, looking up into his eyes, taking in his confused, angry, and concerned expression, the cut still standing out under his cheekbone. And suddenly you felt angry too. Hitoshi, why are you trying to throw away your shot at making friends in high school? I'm not trying to throw it away. It sure looked like it. Fine, he hissed. It's not my top priority. So what? There are things that matter more to me. Like what? You, Eiko. The only friend that matters is you. He ran his hand through his hair in aggravation. If you think I'll let people bother you, just so I can be a social butterfly in high school? He laughed sarcastically, voice choking off as though he was about to break down. You're wrong. You stared at him. You're such a hypocrite. You knew your reaction was insensitive, but you felt too angry to care. I know, he said. Your eyes widened at the last words you'd expected. I always told you to ignore what people said about me. To let it go, not make enemies. And in the minute the tables turn, I don't take my own advice. He looked at you with inexpressibly tired eyes. And you don't regret it, do you? You muttered, reading that expression. No, I don't. You wanted to stay mad at him. You wanted to demand what he'd done to Akira to make him look so broken. But the Hitoshi in front of you looked even more fragile than Akira had, sadness swimming in his eyes as he waited for your response. You reached forward slowly, almost afraid to spook him as you wiped the blood away from the cut on his cheek. A nearly inaudible sob broke from his vocal cords and he covered your hand with his own, pressing his face into your touch. Compassion overrode your annoyance. Shaking your head, you stepped forward and laced your arms around his torso in a tight hug that he was quick to return. Did you think I was going to stop being your friend or something? He hesitated, tensing for a moment before muttering his reply into your hair. I wouldn't have blamed you. You should know by now. You can't get rid of me that easily. His arms tightened. You nuzzled into him, but thoughts made you frown. I just worry about you sometimes, Hitoshi. It seems like you don't care about your well-being at all. Only mine. And that scares me. You could feel the slow rise and fall of his chest, his breath tickling your ear, and you weren't even sure he was listening until he murmured, I'll keep that in mind. Suddenly, the memory of the meeting with Naide crashed into you, and you squeezed your eyes shut, tensing. What is it? Shinso stepped back, studying your face. You sighed. A pro-hero, Sir Naide, looked into my future. He was supposed to clear my name, but he just said, quote, I cannot vouch for this child. Shinso frowned. What does that mean? I don't know. That I'll be a villain? I would never, you added hastily. I know. I'll always trust you, Eiko, I promise. Besides, that might not be what Naide meant. You sagged with relief, but your heart still ached. Well, whatever he saw, it wasn't good, and Aizawa believes his vision. Really? Yeah, he even sent me out of the meeting. Can't let a villain hear a discussion of the future, I guess. Shinso's expression darkened. Your heart twinged in the silence. No wise advice? You'll prove them wrong, he snapped. You chuckled. That's the plan. I just don't know how long I can stand it, not being trusted. Shinso didn't have any words, just frowned down at the sidewalk. Your eyes focused on the dark red line on his pale skin. How did that happen? It doesn't matter. You looked at the cut carefully, noting the precise line of the edge and the slight bruise shadow under it. You remembered the rings glimmering on Akira's fingers. It looks like Akira tried to uppercut your jaw. You must not have been expecting it, but you still dodged fast enough that his ring just grazed your cheekbone. It's like you were there, he murmured with a dry smile. You smirked. Eiko. His intent gaze held yours. It's going to be hard. My only advice is don't give up, and eventually everyone will know that you're a hero. You swallowed the lump in your throat, because he would know better than anyone. Okay? He asked gently. Yeah. You gave him a determined smile. Thanks, Satoshi. You would prove it. You would prove that you weren't a villain. You would prove that you weren't just a problem child. You would prove that you were a hero. Hey, Hitoshi? Yeah? You shouldn't give up either. Next week, we have the training camp. Hot springs, campfire dinners, pillow talk, and a bunch of our classmates who are dying to befriend you. Make friends, okay? You laughed at his barely concealed alarm. Hey guys, art was done by Gmark, and also a new artist. I don't have their preferred name for credit while I'm doing this recording, but they're going to email it to me, so I'll flash that up on the screen for you to see. This was a really fun chapter to write, and you're probably freaking out about Night Eye's vision. I don't want to give anything away. I'll just say I'm excited for the future chapters. This part was sort of hard to record as well. I had to stop twice. The first time for Nezu's line, I voice acted Nezu before, but I forgot how he talked. I just drew a blank. So I'm like, all right, let's search up Nezu dub. And then a short while later, blanked on how Sir Night Eye talked and had to search up Night Eye dub. He pretty much speaks in this emotionless monotone unless he's adding like a slight upward or downward note that emphasizes his absolute contempt for everyone. That's usually my strategy. I just type in the character, dub, watch for a few minutes till I feel like I have a sense of their sort of patterns of talking, and then do my best impression. Thanks again so much for your support. I appreciate every like, every comment, and thank you so much to those of you who've done donations. For those of you who are in school, good luck with that. Remember that stress is temporary, and your unique worth as a person is forever. Okay, that's cheesy, but yeah, I care about you guys. You matter, not just as a listener in a story, like you are in this story, but as a main character in real life. Your story, you matter. Have a great week. I'll see you guys next time.